We'll just get started then. Just a few quick housekeeping before we start. We're going to record the session this afternoon. Just there's quite a few people out enjoying the sunshine, so we don't want them to miss anything. So we're going to pop that on the website after, so everyone can refer back to it as well. Also, if everyone could pop themselves on mute as well, just so when myself or other speakers are talking, no one's interrupted or thrown off their train of thought. Okay, so I'll quickly introduce myself as I'm still fairly new to AMI. So my name's Sabrina. I'm a senior policy advisor at AMI and I have been since September last year. I have been given the great responsibility of working in mortgages this year, so I am now the new project lead, taking over from Rachel, who's done an absolutely fantastic job the last couple of years. So what we'll do is then we'll get started for the reasoning we're having this session today. It's been a great couple of years with plenty of content that's been brought out, and basically we're now wanting to really make it as efficient as possible and collaborate with IMLA, to bring it to life and just tackle those industry problems together. Rachel, can you pop the next slide on, please? So we need to make it clear that D&I really isn't going anywhere. Lately, there's been talks of it not being important, it's losing its purpose, and it's just a tick box exercise, which it just isn't the case anymore. It's more vital than ever that we do need to define our purpose and reinforce what we will be looking to change within the industry and why. Next slide, please. So I'll just cover a few bits that we're going to go through today. So firstly, why we are doing this reset, why do we feel it's necessary, the impact we're hoping to get from the reset as well. One major aspect for today too is going to be a big recruitment drive. We are very interested or need to get as many people as we can involved with the initiative and just get the word out there in what we're doing and how to get involved and what change we can make within the industry. And then lastly, we will have a lovely Q&A session for everyone involved. So you can either pop questions in the chat and we can get to them at the end, or you're more than welcome to wait until the end and you can ask for via Teams as well. So just before we get into the nitty gritty then, I'm just going to pass over to our lovely new Chief Exec Steph, just for a couple of words before we continue.
Thank you, Sabrina. So first off, thank you everybody for spending their Friday lunchtime with us. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine while it still lasts. I think it is on its way out, so let's enjoy it while it still lasts. Thank you, Sabrina. So yeah, I think from an AMI perspective, I think the first thing we want to recognise is the collaboration that we've had with working in mortgages across under the sort of the D&I initiative across the sector and the great work that's already been achieved. This reset is around us reflecting back on the success that we've had, and then how do we evolve and take forward. Sabrina's quite right that the D&I agenda, though maybe slipped down other people's priority lists, shouldn't slip down ours, and the work that we want to do is still really, really important. I think from my own personal perspective as well, and this is why we'll definitely continue to drive it forward, I'm really passionate around showcasing the career opportunities within this sector. You hear all of the time, and I bet if I asked most of you on this call, how did you get into financial services? You'll all start with something like, well, I sort of fell into financial services, or I fell into my role, or I started here and it expanded into this. And I definitely wouldn't have even begun to thought of the roles that I've had within the mortgage sector, that those roles even existed. So how do we better showcase the career opportunities and the career progression that people can have across, no matter what their background, no matter whether that's diverse from a race, gender, or a social economic perspective. We aren't doctors, we all get that, but actually what we do is really sort of support people with financial well-being and obtaining their home ownership goals. And I think that is really important, and we're a big this sector is really important to the growth of the economy as well. We shouldn't forget the roles that we play. So for me, there was a piece around, one, how do we help people sort of with their career progression and get into this sector and progress, but also, as I touched on, that D&I agenda. So the work that's been done across the sector, led by, a host of people, some of which are, we're delighted can join us on the call today, with, whether it's through DIF or through IMLA, has created a safe space for people to move into some really difficult topics. However, I feel there is so much more that we can continue to do. We need to raise awareness. We need to ensure people continue to feel comfortable. And as they do, and as they come on that journey, we need to raise the bar and push the boundaries on the areas that we discuss and explore further. So as we've taken the time, some of you kindly joined us a few weeks ago, back when we were in HSBC's office, and we did a visioning day. And I won't steal Sabrina's thunder and the areas that she's going to touch into, but I do want to sort of say, you know, we will visit into some of those successes and the things that we took, and all your feedback around what did we learn and what can we do differently. But one of the collaborative approach that we've had has definitely been one of those key successes. However, what we have noticed, and there has been, this came through in feedback, and we've been having sort of separate discussions, is there have been times where there's been some crossover of activity across the work that Amy's been doing and the work that IMLA's been doing. And look, we're all short on time, we're all incredibly busy people, so that creates some inefficiency. So what can we do to work on that? So we've reflected, and as I said, as part of this reset, we've decided that Amy and IMLA will come even closer together. So instead of separate steering groups and separate working groups, actually we're going to pull all of that together with a joint steering group and joint task force that will keep this activity working at pace. We'll continue to have separate activity where it works well. IMLA do a fantastic lunch and learn, range of lunch and learn sessions. They will continue. So let's take the good parts of what works really, really well, and let's reset the agenda and reset our focus on activity moving forward. And I'll let Sabrina talk us through some of that. But Sabrina, are you happy for me to talk just a little bit around the joint steering group?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You want to introduce anyone else as well? That's
I
fine.
would indeed like to introduce somebody else. So as part of that reset and us coming together, we have decided to look at the chairs of the steering groups. From an Amy perspective, the chair was previously Kevin Roberts. Kevin has done a fantastic role, and we thank him very, very much for everything that he's done. But we wanted to make sure we got a balance across, you know, advisor and lender across that joint steering group. So I'm delighted to say that Nicola Goldie will be the chair of the joint steering group going forward, supported as deputy chair by Dom Scott. So Nick, can I ask you to just pop on and give your thoughts on the reset and how we're going to look to move forward?
Thanks, Steph, and I'm super excited that we are bringing together the Amy and IMLA work. I think it makes absolute sense, and it's great timing to be able to do that. So, you know, thank you so much for the opportunity to do this, and I'm really looking forward to getting into building the steering group up, building the task forces up. I think what we've definitely seen across both is some real strength of collaboration, and to Steph's point, the kind of efficiencies is where I think we'll definitely win some here, because we have people that kind of tend both sides, if you like, and get involved. Actually, this is all about really honing those skills that we've learned already, those activities that we know work well, and learning from the best of each other and bringing it all together into the industry. So just to say, super excited, and yeah, can't wait to bring this on.
Thank you. Dom, is there anything you'd like to, I know we're going to come to you in a little bit, but as, you know, as deputy chair, we really appreciate your support. So yeah, is there anything you'd like to say at this point?
Yes, always. Firstly, I'm a big fan of this initiative. I think the work Amy and IMLA have done from the beginning has been amazing. And now I'm just, you know, my enthusiasm is renewed with yourself on board, Stephanie, with Sabrina taking over the reins. You know, it's great to have new energy. And what an endorsement. I mean, if you don't have the key institutions like Amy and IMLA underpinning this, then it doesn't work. You know, it's not credible. And I think we have that credibility now. And it should also be said, you know, it's great that this is happening, you know, in the current context, in the current climate. You know, there's a backlash. If I'm honest, I was always expecting it. It doesn't surprise me. You know, in a weird way, I kind of like it. It means you're doing something right if people feel compelled enough to push back. But I've never really understood it, because diversity, quite simply, is widening the talent pool with competent people. So it's not about taking away, it's about adding. And inclusion is about making sure people feel as though they belong. And who would be against those two things? So it's important we are more intentional as a collective, as a sector, as an industry around these areas, and we control the narrative on it. You know, we decide how we describe ourselves, because as romantic as it is, this idea of people sort of fall into the industry, then fall in love with it. The flip side to that is we're missing great talent. We're missing really good people. They're going elsewhere. They're self-selecting. It's not even necessarily about firms not choosing people based on who they are, but people are self-selecting into other industries. So let's not allow that to happen. You know, so all the activity we're doing, you know, will be around how we describe and promote ourselves, which I'm really excited to be a part of.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Dom. And, you know, we're really, really excited to have you on board. So, Sabrina, that's all from me. I'll pass back to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. If you could just pop the next slide on, please, Rachel. Brilliant. So I'll just go into a bit about the visioning day that we held in early March. We decided a in-person meeting would be best for this. It just brings people together. It's easier to talk about certain topics, and I just feel like you get more out of it. So we held it at the HSBC head office to discuss everything that had been done in the past into things that we wanted to focus on within the future. So we basically needed to look at the structure of the initiative to make sure it's running as smooth as possible, basically, just to make it, you know, a good, well-oiled machine. So we discussed the purpose, the strategy, and, as I said, the structure. So what we did was we looked at what we'd done, what we had done, what we learned, what's worked well, and what we're going to be doing going forward. So we kind of took all of that information, and that's what we're using to, you know, do this reset, and how we're gonna restructure and use that information to improve the efficiency of the initiative and just make sure we can get more out of it, and just make more of an impact within the industry. Next slide, please, Rachel. So we'll start with a few areas that we did look at. So we looked at the what's worked well so far. So we've got the fantastic mentoring scheme, which has up to 300 sign-ups at the minute. It's doing brilliant. So every time it's always spoke about in a positive manner. We've had brilliant feedback saying that, you know, it's really helping people to, you know, lead a more successful career. They're just getting more insights from these mentors. And, you know, if you want more details for you to sign up that as well, we can provide that later on. That's no problem. The website is fantastic. It's got a breadth of resource on there, and Rachel has absolutely created content over the last couple of years. So we've had plenty of blog posts, podcasts, day in the life blogs, all of that good stuff, and that's all still on the website as well. So if you want to check that out later, then you're more than welcome to. We've even won awards as well for being the best diversity initiative over the last couple of years, which is also fantastic. But we just have to remember that it's really important to have an initiative like WIM to be able to have that safe space within the industry, to be able to discuss important topics so openly without any judgment. And that's, you know, why we need to do what we're doing. So what we've learned is we need to have a defined purpose. Having a defined purpose allows us to sense check all of the outputs that we are taking from yourselves, from volunteers, from the steering group leads, all of that. We need to make sure that everything we're doing aligns with that purpose. So we've decided that having a particular label for the working groups, it limits them to what they can achieve. So we've kind of restructured that, and we're going to go into a little bit on that further on. So it was just this reinforcement needed for structure going forward. So we need to have meeting agendas, we need to have notes distributed around, just to make sure everything's cohesive and everyone knows where everything is. So one of the other issues as well with D&I, it can be quite easy to just get lost in conversation. You can have these brilliant conversations, but you end up going around in circles and you try to boil the ocean, and it doesn't lead to many actionable outputs, which, although the conversations are great, if you're not getting anything out of them, then what's the point of them? So taking all of that on board, the future plans we've got, like I said, we're restructuring the work stream. So now these are going to be separated into 2 groups, and these are going to be task forces, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail later on, sorry. As obviously Steph's already introduced, we now have a new chair and a new deputy chair, which we think will just reinvigorate the initiative and bring a bit more life into it. We also have a charter that we're going to be introducing. So there was this conversation about the the kind of responsible or accountability of people that are turning up to the meetings, contributing to conversations, but apart from that, we're not really getting anything out of it. So in order to, you know, make the initiative thrive, we thought having a diversity and inclusion charter would kind of just reinvigorate people to think about, okay, what can I do to really contribute to the group? Like what can I do to make a change? So we've introduced this charter that will basically allow people to know that they have signed up, they are there to give this commitment to us. Again, I'll go into a bit more detail about that later on. We did also talk about the lack of recruitment for new volunteers over the last year or so. So it was noticed that we don't actually have many HR staff involved or younger volunteers, and we feel going forward these are two groups, obviously not all of them, but two particular groups that we feel could potentially make quite a big change in firms that they work at, or any other firms. You know, they have quite a bit of control or input into the areas of where they work. So the next thing that links on to that as well, people at the Vision and Day thought the lack of physical presence at networking events also it doesn't help with the lack of recruitment. They felt that if we are there at these physical events, at the events, we can talk to potential new volunteers and also recruit more and get that message across more. It's more personal when you speak to someone in person rather than a telephone call or an email. And we just think that would be a lot more beneficial. So we do have some plans already booked in to attend events with IMLA, to be able to have a face there, and anyone that wants to talk working and mortgages can just approach us and we can do it. So next slide, please, Rachel. So as I said before, the big part of the Vision and Day was defining the purpose for the initiative. So we came up together with this purpose, as you can see on screen, to make the mortgage industry a fairer and more accessible place to work and do business with. So we think that, you know, it is quite a broad statement. However, it's just vital to everyone within the industry, really, making that safe space for everyone, making the industry more inviting to get new people involved. Like Dom said before, we need to open up that talent pool. By having this purpose, it allows us to sense check all of the outputs that we will be making going forward. Does this align with our purpose? Is this going to be, you know, helping us do what we want to do within the industry? There was other bits as well. So the other little bits we've got on screen: doing the right thing, belong and thrive, which again picked up on what Dom said before, and to promote and encourage working environments to attract and retain individuals and provide opportunities for everyone. It's just it's just those little bits that allow us to sense check what is the purpose of the initiative is going forward. So next slide, please, Rachel. So the strategy, we had some really interesting conversations around this at the Vision and Day. We essentially came up with the idea of the attract and retain being the key aspects of them. There was one particular person who did come up with this idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass over to Dom, who's going to talk a little bit about his thought processes behind it. And then we're going to explain how we're applying it to the initiative and how we're going to use it going forward. Dom?
Sure, thanks, Sabrina. So just sort of linking back to what I was saying before, when you sort of boil down diversity and inclusion, diversity is, as I've said before, about widening that talent pool. And to do that, we need to control the narrative. I mean, far too often you've got either recruiters doing it for you, as opposed to the key institutions within the sector that, you know, really should be taking control of who we are, and more importantly, who we want to be over the next period of time. So a lot of the activity that will happen over the next period of time will fall into either that attract section or the retain section. And the retain is really interesting because once you've attracted that talent, then logic prevails. You need to hold on to it, and it's only when you retain that talent do you then have individuals who develop the skills they need to move into senior positions or to be more impactful in their current roles. Not everybody wants to be promoted, so we'll be sort of drilling down into the details, understanding what that means in practice, and a lot of the activity will be there to promote it. And I think this is why the HR point is so interesting. It's important that we're not doing things that are pie in the sky and sort of nice to have. They need to be practical and work in the real world, and to have business leaders in the room, as well as BDMs, as well as national account managers, advisors, obviously, the leaders of those advisors, as well as HR, and maybe I've missed a group in there somewhere. Everybody's got a perspective on this, and everybody needs to contribute to create something which is complete and workable.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dom. So yes, as Dom said, these are two major aspects of the D&I initiative, and so this is what we've applied to the structure going through. The attract, obviously, it would be to promote the initiative and spark interest in new volunteers and get them into the industry. We need to be able to explain why the mortgage industry is such a great place to work, what benefits of people get from working within the mortgage industry. It's such a big part of people's lives, even financial services. You're dealing with a customer's very big life event. And you get such a purpose from doing that. It's great. So with the attract, it's all about getting the people in. We need to be able to give them that opportunity to shape the future for younger generations. We need to make sure that the environment is great for them when they come into the industry as well. And then retain, as Dom said, we need to create and keep it a safe space for people within the sectors to be able to discuss issues with, diversity and inclusion within the Work and Mortgages initiative. So next slide, please, Rachel. So as I mentioned before, the structure is going to be changed very slightly. We now no longer have working groups, so they're now going to be called task forces. So they'll align with the two key ideas of attract and retain, as we previously said. And so depending on the amount of volunteers we do get as to how they'll be split, but ideally you'll be part of either a attract group or a retain group. And the structure, so it's going to be slightly different in the way that we work going forward. We are now going to have a central hub where there'll be a task list. So the list itself, it'll show you what type of content or actionable output there is there, what the task is. So to make a blog post or a podcast or something along those lines, and then it'll show the amount of people that it'll need to have involved in that particular task, and then it'll also have an estimate amount of time next to it as well. So you're kind of going to be given the control, really. So everyone will have access to this document, and you'll be able to go there whenever you've got some free time, just go in, pick a task, and then start working on it. We feel doing it this way will give people more control to utilize their own skills and also their own free time. Obviously, people are very busy, but again, if you've got 10 or 5 minutes to spare, just get yourself on that list, pick something out, and then start working on it. It also kind of gives you the control and the freedom to collaborate with different members within the group as well. So if someone's got a particular skill set that matches that task, you can always reach out and work together on those tasks to get them completed. Obviously, also it'll give people the freedom to add tasks to that list as well. So if anyone has a really good idea, or they think it's a really good idea, it would be popped up on that list, and then the steering group would review it to make sure it aligns with our purpose for the initiative. And then if it does, it would stay on the list and then become a workable output. Next one, please, Rachel. Brilliant. So, as I mentioned previously, this is the charter. So this will be distributed to all volunteers. So it doesn't have to be a wet signature or anything. You literally just print your name and then just return it. It's just to give people, you know, the accountability for being involved in the initiative, what the purpose is, and just that commitment that we do need from everyone to be able to support the initiative. Without everyone's commitment and contributions, the initiative's not, you know, it's not going to be as effective as it could be. So we just feel this is going to be a really big, important change to just drive that the outputs that people can, you know, contribute to the group. We obviously think this is going to be great for recruitment as well. And another is that, you know, if people do sign up, they can say that, oh, look, we're part of Working in Mortgages. They can put it on their social medias, they can put it on their CVs. Make sure that it's such a good thing to be a part of, that people want, like, I really want to get involved. And then in regards to the recruitment drive, I'll just pass over to Nicola. I know you want to say a few bits here as well.
Yeah, thank you. So from a recruitment perspective, we've done really well so far. But I think the points that we've made so far have been, there is the opportunity to do so much more. And if I put my kind of IMLA experience on at this point in time, when we've grown the sort of reach over time, but it's taken lots of time.
Sorry, Nick. Sorry, Nick. Is it just me? I'm really struggling to hear you, or is it just me?
Oh, sorry. I'm having
issues today. You sound as though I'm back in Doctor Who land, and you're a bit of a Dalek. I mean that in the nicest possible way, Nick.
Thank you for telling me, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I don't know if anyone else is. So yeah.
Yeah, no, but that should just be a second. Bear with me while she just loads back in.
Sabrina, just while we're waiting for Nick to come back, I think we will say, is this the charter, we will be distributing this across the steering groups and the initial working group leads.
Yeah.
Just this is a proposal, so this is one that we'll forward round for input. But again, you know, the whole focus today is on reset and output. So we thought we'd have an initial stab at putting a charter together. So we will make sure we circulate that for feedback before we get to a finalised version we'll use moving forward.
Definitely.
Shall I see? Is that any better at all?
Oh, that's much better.
Telling me maybe it's Friday afternoon and the sun's shining and we're off next week, Nick. So what are you doing on this call? I'll tell you what I'm doing on this call. I'm getting super excited about what we're doing. So hopefully that's much better. So yeah, from a recruitment perspective, I mean, let's be honest, we kind of we've grown to a point, but there is so much more we can do. And I think, Sabrina, you said that earlier on. So really the charter, I love the fact that this then anchors us all back. So the purpose of what we're doing and why we should be doing it. And what I'm really looking forward to doing is kind of bringing in all the learns. I think I said this already, but like the learns from IMLA side of how we grow reach, and then the accountability that comes with that. So where we've grown lunch and learns, where we can grow the sort of activity with networks and events. And where I really want to get to is, you know, we're a sociable bunch. We're all out at various different things. We interact with so many people over the course of our daily jobs. This should almost become like an add-on to kind of encourage people to get to it. And I love the fact that we're now able to be more structured around, you can dip into this for 5-10 minutes if you like, and still, you know, provide some absolutely fantastic contribution that is, you know, really meaningful and worth it. Equally, you can take on a broader role, and that's what you can do as well. So I love the fact that we're now kind of almost with that structure. Hopefully that brings more appetite for people to join us. So as we kind of build on the activity that we're going to do, I'm keen to kind of lean on our relationships that we have, lean on the business relationships, really leverage the sort of lender, the broker side of things to bring people on board. And I think now we've got that visibility of what types of things we can do, that'll just take it to another level.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Yeah, fantastic. And then I think now would be a good way to kind of just start wrapping up and see if anyone's got any questions before we head off for the day.
Open to thoughts and feedback. Sorry, Dom, I didn't mean to speak across you there, but open to thoughts and feedback.
Yeah, no problem. Not a question, but just some thoughts from me. I think the increased structure we have was needed. I think that was a core part of the feedback from the visioning day.
Yeah.
And I think it gives everybody more clarity in terms of what the expectation is. But let's not sugarcoat the truth, not that anybody is. Being involved involves work.
Yeah.
You have to spend some of your time and invest some of your time into this. Just putting your name down on the list and hoping things get done won't suffice.
Yeah.
And I suppose, the logic that underpins this is if you want something done, ask a busy person. We are all busy people. So, dare I say it, saying you're too busy sort of isn't good enough. Being busy is what qualified you to be in the group. Chances are you're good at what you do, so you're going to be busy. So, be prepared to be inconvenienced by this. You have to create the time, you have to find the time, but just know it's really important work. Creating the foundations for our industry being more inclusive, I think is the kind of legacy that I want when all is said and done. It won't be doing that extra deal a week or hitting that sort of revenue target necessarily. It will be creating an environment that allows the industry to better serve society, because that's what this means. Where you have an industry that better reflects the composition of who's in our society, we can better serve its needs, and that's the most crucial thing for me. Yeah. After you, Joe, I can see you there.
Hi guys. Firstly, thank you for letting me come on board. I've been listening over the course of the meeting, so apologies if this has already been suggested, but it's my first one I've attended. But given you've been talking a lot about attracting new talent to the industry, and I think we all recognise as a industry, well, I'm getting a lot older, but as an industry we're sort of aging and there's not as many sort of new talent coming in. But is there any plans, for example, to do things with universities, in terms of like presenting to them about, what great career opportunities exist in mortgages, or going into sixth forms, creating some sort of education for those types of, future talent into the industry? Apologies if this has already been suggested before, but just having listened to some of the conversation, I think it's a good starting point for attracting new people in.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. Thank you. So this kind of relates back to the task list. So if you do have any ideas like that, you can pop them on there, and then the steering group will be able to review whether it is going to be a possibility of it's something that, it's going to be in the future. But I know that particular topic has been mentioned previously. So it's still in the pipeline. It's not something that we've got, indefinitely set in place now, but it's definitely something we could consider in the future. I don't know if you want to add anything, Steph.
Yeah, Joe, I think you've touched on a really important part there. I think, if we don't get out to younger people and raise awareness of this industry and the good work that we do and all the different types of roles that there are as well. So depending on your skill set, depending on your qualifications, I didn't go to university and I appear so far to have done okay with that. So actually, you don't, it's how do we reset some of those expectations, perceptions, misconceptions? How do we reset all of that? How we do it is the difficult piece, because I think it's probably something that we most of us that sit across this initiative recognise is something we need to do. We need to get to the how to, and I think so you've raised a really good point. I think Dom's raised a really good point around some of these things that we're going to want to do are going to be big pieces of work, and one of the reasons of bringing the charter in is one, to be transparent about the amount of time you may need to give to this initiative. So actually, when you're not getting into something that you don't have the time to do, if you really don't have the ability to step in. But also then the other part of that is, what do we expect as a commitment level? So if you do step in, we've been transparent about what we need. What are we expecting back from you as that commitment to be involved? the piece around this central hub is actually then really being able to lay out, if you can only give an hour, you can give an hour. If you can give more time than that, then that work allows the flexibility to do that. But you've touched on a really quite a chunky piece of work that we need to break down, and we need to get volunteers onto how do we step into that, and how do we learn from other people who may already be doing that in some parts.
So I was just about to say the same thing. I think it's then leaning into where have you got relationships and expertise that can help and drive this, and that all feeds into the sort of recruitment drive that we need to do here. But spot on. Thank you.
Completely.
Thank you. Leslie, I can see your hand up.
Hi everyone. I have just put in the chat about Career Ready. I'm an advocate for Career Ready. Allianz, who we're with, are partners of them. They are a charity, and they've recently, I suppose, just changed to be more of a social mobility type charity in terms of going to schools. But they look for volunteers, so they would love IMLA or Amy, whatever our collaborative name will be, but to be a partner, and they look for volunteers across the UK to go into schools and talk to year 12 and 13s about they provide you with all the documents as well, so you haven't got to produce anything. They provide you with loads of slides, and it's so, for me, and as just reading off what Dom said, the whole give back now, it's not about how many people want to sell LV or Allianz products for me now. It is about, been in this industry for 27 years, and I want to be able to give back and say it's done good for me. Do you know what I mean? I'm proud to say I work in the industry, and working in the mortgage area, it really helps to say, yes, it's okay to look like me, sound like me. I didn't go to uni. I came out with GCSEs and a few A levels, and I'm still, fantastic at my job, and you get respected for that. And just to be down with the kids as well. I love to be, you have to be able to communicate with them, don't you, really, to be able to say, they can understand that they can be, and then can talk to you, as you said, about safe spaces, about the difficulties that they actually do go through still in society, that many people have been through before, that we can help them to get through, don't just, so help them build that resilience as well within, and how to tackle those situations by having mentors and stuff. So, I mean, Bernardo's and Career Ready is what I wanted to say. They're two great charities that I think we can get involved in.
Can I just jump in on Leslie's point, please?
I
agree with so much. I agree with so much of it. I don't know where to start. So, first of all, Career Ready, I'm a big fan of. I know them very well. It's run by a guy called Tokunbo Ajasa. And you're right, it's very much a social mobility charity, and they provide a really good service, because one of the structural challenges you've got with wanting to do work in schools or universities is they don't necessarily want lots of random people just showing up, entering their premises for all the obvious reasons. So where you can partner with an organisation that has the relationship with the schools, they can take care of the vetting and the training, and then ensure that when people from the mortgage industry step into those environments, they're the right people delivering the right messages in the right way. So I think Career Ready is most definitely one of those organisations. I'm a trustee of a charity called Making the Leap. That's another one. Bernardo's you've mentioned. So I think, this is all part of the activity we want to explore now, part of the attract side of things, in order to build it into the processes we have.
No, brilliant. Thank you for bringing that up, Leslie. I'll definitely see if we can reach out to them and get the ball rolling with something like that. It sounds great. Thank you.
I was just going to add as well, just in terms of that, some of the work we've been doing with women in banking and finance, we're doing a big drive at the moment on student engagement as well. So we have been going out to the universities. We've been focusing on Northern Ireland at the moment, but obviously can bring that learnings back into working in mortgages as well. And we also have an initiative, it's called the Future Leaders Shadow Board as well, and that's trying to attract the younger generations as well into banking and finance. So hopefully we could bring some of the learnings from with it into this then as well.
Yeah. No, it all sounds great. And thank you so much for all of the input. It just shows that we've got those resources there. We just need to utilise them as best as we can. Is there anyone else with their hand up? I can't see, the screen's gone.
I think, Siobhan, I think you touched on a really good point there around actually there are other, and Leslie to the same, there are lots of things going on that actually what we need to do is raise awareness of, we need to raise our own awareness of all of the different initiatives and work that's being done and collaborate accordingly. It doesn't, it's not that women need to do it all. Actually, it's how do we make sure that we harness and utilize those resources accordingly, because actually, you know, Dom's right, we're all busy people, so let's not be inefficient and do things that somebody else is doing. Let's collaborate and partner and align where recording. And actually, yeah, let's speak their language, because I'm pretty sure actually if somebody from a Gen Z actually sat and listened to anything that I've just said there around alignment and collaboration and everything else, they would laugh at me and call me very old. So actually, I am probably not the right person to go. And my son would tell you that as well. My teenage son would tell you I'm not the right person to go and talk to Gen Z. So let's go and speak their language, and I'll just stay here talking my corporate stuff.
I think Peter's put a good comment in the chat. I'm not sure if he's able to speak, but he has said Gen Z finding it hard to get onto the housing ladder may well give a negative view of the mortgage industry, and to attract, we will definitely need their input on how to engage and help them realise that we're not ignorant of this. So it is about perception as well, isn't it? You know, if it's so difficult to buy, you know, and what you need thousands of pounds to save, why would I want to be, you know, I wouldn't want to work there, much less get a mortgage. So it's a good point, very good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's a fantastic point. And actually, we might even end up finding that we have a bit of a dual win here, in that can we change some of the misconceptions about getting onto the property ladder? So actually, can we end up sort of with a bit of a, you know, a bonus? So yeah, we recruit them and actually get them to understand they can get on the property ladder, because there's fantastic solutions that you all as lenders do offer. So actually, it could even have a dual purpose win-win, which would be even better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, two types of education, just slightly different.
Yeah, same purpose.
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic. Does anyone else have any other questions or any other points they'd like to make on everything that's been covered today? I don't think I can see anything else in the chat. Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, if no one has any questions now, absolutely no problem, but please feel free to reach out to myself or Steph directly if you do have any after the session. Like I said, we are going to be putting this up on the website as well, so if you do want to refer back to it or anything, please feel free. But yeah, I'll let you have some time back this afternoon, and thank you so much for attending. We do really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Where is Andrew Montlake?